Hey, Tanya Reeves.
Good morning, everyone. Tonya and Tony on TNT Thursdays. Welcome to the show. I can't believe it's Thursday. Last night I went, oh, tomorrow's Thursday. Isn't it terrible when you're traveling and you lose track of days?
I know.
That's
Are
me.
you right?
That was
It
me.
is, yes. Natasha, how are you? Sorry, I just got interrupted by something. And it is, it's amazing how Thursday just creeps up on us. And nobody likes a Thursday creeping up on us. But here we are. Natasha, how are you going? You had a birthday last week. It was last week or the week before. I know it was one of those. Somebody else had a birthday on TNT Thursday community. Bridget, how are you? Good to have the community on board. If you're out there in the world of Facebook and you've accidentally stumbled across this fantastic community, wow, geez, aren't you lucky? Tonya Reeves, one of the best mediums on the planet. We're going to talk more about her. She did a fantastic show at the Human Repair Shop up in Sydney, but also blitzed the Mind and Body Spirit Festival here in Sydney as well, and which was really good 2 weeks ago. Tash, you know what? Happy birthday again for 2 weeks ago.
God, time flies. I know. I wouldn't have thought it was that long ago, Tash.
I know, but look, if you are stumbling, if you are in the world of Facebook and you've seen this great live show, basically Tonya Reeves is on board as a medium. My background's a little bit of counselling, a bit of psychology and that, and we've got the most amazing, Lisa, thanks for stumbling across this morning. And basically, it's an amazing
Thanks,
community. Lisa, do you know what? This program was actually this community was born due to COVID. And we just got a community of people that threw stuff out there. And we just talk about what's happened in our week. And we talk about problems, we talk about good things, and we try to solve the world's problems as a community, which is really it. So, Lisa, if you've got anything else out there that's really easy to solve, let us know.
Easier the better.
Throw some stuff out. Tell me what's been happening. Tonya and I are going to babble on, but I really want to know from you guys what's been happening in your world. What's the energy like at the moment? The good, the bad, the ugly. You guys are going to do all the heavy lifting today, which is going to be really nice. Jen, how are you? Jen, you had somebody's birthday and you made a super cool cake. And I just want to say, did you make that cake? Because it looked amazing. Do share. Tonya, let's talk about you most importantly. Kylie's on board. Hello, Kylie. How are you?
Hey, Kylie. Hey, Jen.
Let's talk about the wonderful Tonya Reeves, about absolutely having a stellar week of doing some great mediumship shows. I mean, you started off coming up to Sydney. You and Andrew came up and you did the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival. Tell us how that was. Tell us about some of the great connections that you had, because you always have some great ones. But yeah, I'd love to know. And I think everybody would love to know what your experience was.
Look, absolutely. It is crazy. The amount of connections, especially the Mind, Body and Spirit Festival, you've got an audience of, 250 plus. So there's a lot of people that, you're connecting for, and it's a lot of fun. And I get so many messages. I've actually had a young girl message me who's happy for me to share it. And I haven't got to do that yet, but I will be doing that. That was her uncle that came through. And there was so many connections, Tony. I'm just trying to think there was some crazy connections actually. Now I've got to remember.
That's right. I can refresh some of your memories. I can bring spirit into me and then channel that and then speak to you as if I was there at the show. How would you like that?
Exactly. Well, you can, I actually think our show at your shop, the Human Repair Shop, which is, by the way, such an awesome space. Like that just held space so well. And that was pretty pivotal that night in the feedback, even from those that were there that I had. And I know you've spoken to some of them since, but that was really crazy with...
I've actually spoken to everybody that came after the program, so I can share with you. Yeah.
And, there was so many great connections that night, but I do love dear Damien, the skeptic. And I love a skeptic. To me, that is gold, is getting somebody that's, very much not really into this, or they'll say, I'm not really into it. And what I love with Damien is his partner, Hannah's an amazing intuitive. And I see her, she will step into doing readings. She's very, very talented. And she's always struggled a bit because he's very shut off from it. So he got mind blown. She told me on Sunday.
Absolutely. Yeah. And she did come and see you up there. I'm going to quickly do it. Hello, Kathy. How are you? I hope you're well. I hope Lloyd's well as well. I'd love to know how that's going over in America. Beth, really good to see you on board as well. Jen, happy birthday for yesterday, by the way. And it was your husband's the other day. And Susie Williams, morning. How are you? So it is great. So I'm just saying hello to everybody. Let's have a look. Tonya did come in. It was Tonya Reeves. Congratulations for being the first official event for the Human Repair Shop up in Sydney. And you were our first one off and I've got to say, wow, what an event to start as a clinic, to have your first event totally sold out and have to be so fun and so well received by everybody. And you know, Tonya, you didn't miss a beat. Oh yes, Susie, we'll get on to that. That's a Valiant Charger. That's me racing in Target, Tasmania. When I sat down, I go, oh wow, the Charger's in the background. We'll talk about that later, Susie.
I love that.
Don't you worry. And yeah, so it was really well received. It was we invited our community, the Human Repair Shop community, so all our clients and friends and everything like that, really well received. And I've got to say, Tonya, going in and promoting a spiritual workshop, I was nervous about it because I didn't know how people were going to receive it. And I was I grew up with this shit, Tonya. My mum's a clairvoyant. She was a tarot card reader. She's done shows. She's and when it came to reaching out to others, going, hey, I've got a psychic coming along, and I was really nervous about people's reactions. And I'm really embarrassed to say that, but that's what happened for me. But we still got it sold out. People, Damien, by the way, who was the skeptic, God love him. You went down this path where, and it was brilliant. I'll refresh your memory. This is an insight to Tonya Reese's work. Tonya connects with this gentleman's cousin, and basically she says, oh, he's dancing, like he's like really flipping out. He's really like having a good time, rah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And she goes, oh, and there was a complication with his death as well. Something happened in hospital, blah, 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 and et cetera, et cetera. And then Damien goes, yeah. He goes, actually, and she goes, and there's water there as well. And you piece that all together. And then Damien says, he goes, yeah, it's my cousin. And he actually had an epileptic fit, which explains what you saw, right? And he actually went into the water, and then he went into hospital, and there was a complication, and he unfortunately passed away. The beautiful thing about that is, and the thing that actually really was, I think, closure for Damien as well, that the cousin in spirit actually said, I'm responsible for my death. There are some things I could have done to prevent it to a certain degree. And you weren't too sure, you go, whether it was taking medication or something like that. But what it was in spirit, it was that spirit going, dude, don't take it. Don't feel guilty. Don't take any responsibility. There's nothing nobody could have done. It was a bit of me, and that came through really well. And you kept on going. And this is what I love about Tonya, when you do a show and you come up with stuff, and everybody goes, oh, she's absolutely shit as a psychic, because you kept on going, there's a tattoo on the shoulder, there's a tattoo on the left shoulder, there's something there, and it's quite symbolic. Is it you, Damien, or is it somebody else who's got it? Right? And you kept on barking on about it, and he's going, nah. I speak to Hannah and Damien the next day, and he goes, oh shit, I looked for photos and I spoke to his mum, and he goes, yeah, he had this tattoo on his left shoulder, and it was this, that, the other. and you don't get that in the show. In the show, you only get this moment of time where you're like, she got that wrong. How shit's she?
It was so good. And that was great. And he actually got, I think, 3 connections that night. It was so funny. And you could see when I started, which is not uncommon for a skeptic, when I started, he was I wasn't sure whether he was saying yes. He was sort of nodding, and he was with his partner. And so she was there nodding at me going, you're right. Because he wasn't giving a lot away, which is very common for a skeptic, because it kind of blows their theory of this being bullshit out the water a bit when you start to collect evidence around people that have passed. And so it's not uncommon for them not to jump there and go, yes, compared to somebody who's more open to it. So, that side of it was really great. But also it was great to have Hannah come up to me, a couple of days later, and she was really excited about the fact that it turned on the head his belief system about being a real skeptic. And so, that was, to me, that's part of my journey, is to I'm not here to convince people that aren't interested in it, but obviously he's got a natural curiosity because he came along for the night, and I always say we all have that aspect within us, but it's wonderful to be able to be a part of just that awakening of them going, you can't make that shit up, like all the evidence that he was given, like I couldn't possibly know.
When I saw Damien's name on the list next to Hannah's, I went, I go, what's he coming for? I like Damien was the last person I think would ever sign up for this. I was like, I know he got dragged there, but he still came along, which was amazing. Yeah, Beck puts in here, she goes, sounds awesome. A lot of people are receiving more messages these days. And I think thank COVID for that. Yeah, look, there is. And we'll talk about messages because Tonya did talk about receiving messages from spirits that have spirits in the spirit world, people that have passed away, how they give you that. And Jen, you're right. Something always pings up later. Now, I want to take this conversation to something that absolutely blew me away and blew away a few people in the audience. And I think it was, Tonya, it was the first time you've had there was a second time in your career where you've had something like this happen to you. And there was a client that we had in there, and he was also dragged along by his wife, which was beautiful. And he's a lovely man. I've got a lot of time for this couple. I really love him. And for some reason, his dad came up, and you actually question this, and I'll almost probably spark your memory as soon as I say it. It's like, and you question, you go, is your father passed yet or not yet, or what's the go? And he turned around and he goes, oh my God, he goes, I knew I shouldn't have come today. Do you remember when he said that? He goes, I knew I shouldn't have come today. He goes, my dad had a stroke the other day, and he was in a semi-coma sort of state after having a stroke. Let's pick up that conversation. I'm going to let you go on with that one because and it was somebody else at Mind, Body, Spirit had the same experience where they weren't passed, but they were in a state.
It was really ironic. The one at the Mind, Body and Spirit Festival had been in a coma, and it was like the spirit came through to say, don't drag this on. And it was a really hard message because I was a bit like, oh, how do I deliver this? And you've got so much emotion behind, the messages that spirit bring along. And so that's one thing, I suppose, that I'm really aware of being a medium is how you deliver information to people. And, sometimes in a show, look, it'd be great to say, oh, they're in a coma and they're coming through it and making a big, you could make a big drama around it and, makes for great entertainment. But I'm just not like, to me, that person knows the message I'm bringing through. I know the message that spirit's bringing through, and I don't need to make a show of it. And I'm really aware of that. And each to their own, for some people they might, but for me, I was very mindful of saying he's giving me this message to say that, he doesn't want things to be dragged on. And that wasn't, I could have easily said he wants the because he was on a machine. So he wants it turned off.
This is the one at Mind, Body, Spirit. Yeah. That's right. So, and he'd been like that for a little while too.
Yeah. And I believe the family, like as family do, they didn't want him. They don't want to lose him. So they're trying, and you understand that. But yeah, it was really bizarre that he came through with the message. He had his name, he had how he passed, like everything ticked off. And he's, not fully gone, like he's in this coma state. So that was incredible to come through. I've never had something like that before. And the gentleman you're talking about, he had his mum came up first, and hasn't passed but had dementia and has had dementia for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
So she was the one bringing up about the father being like it was almost like messages from him, but she actually orchestrated that. So that was really fascinating how, she was the one bringing the information through and saying, is it like the dad said or not, here. And it fascinates me because, look, I haven't been across to the other side, so I don't pretend to not have all the answers. And I can only go by what they show me. So I'm always learning things and picking new things up, which I love. And, I do find that every time there's shows, there's different connections, and different things mean, different things to different people. And that's the interesting 100%. Part is sometimes you'll deliver a message that sounds very generic to you, but it has a massive impact to that person. So...
I agree with Beth where she goes, now, wow, that's so hard. It is. And I'm going to, Jen, you bring up a really interesting thing here. Nathan Wilkes, are you doing free readings? No, we don't do readings. Nathan, but hey, you're welcome to join. It's a community that just talks about stuff. So absolutely. But look, Jen brings up something I want to go to later on. Can I just say, going with what Beth is saying, wow, that sounds so hard. What you did really well was navigate quite well, because I think as a participant, an audience participant, when you said that, let's say the gentleman's father was in a coma and he had a stroke and that, all of us were pretty much thinking, is he going to die or is he going to pull through? We
Yeah.
were waiting for this magical answer that you were going to give us. And what you did so skillfully, you actually navigated not to say, oh, okay, yep, he's definitely going to pass, he's definitely going to live or whatever. You conveyed the messages across what they're wanting to say to you or what they want to share with you now. And I remember it was the other one that came through, not only the wife, but it was his brother as well. I think that came through on that one there, and said that he's a real fighter, and that basically he's going to try to, the intention is to fight through this, the one that was in the room. But the other one that you did at Mind Body Spirit Festival was like, I'm out.
That's right. I don't want this to drag on, and I don't want to be a vegetable, stuck in this state. And 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 another really powerful one I have to say, Tony, from your show was his wife, her mother coming through, and they both came up to me later. Now, her mother had really, as a mum, had really treated her daughter really badly, and she acknowledged that in the spirit world and said, I want to say I'm sorry, and I acknowledge that, and I went through a lot of trauma, and I did the best I could, but I am sorry now. Now, that was like, for her, she came up and said that was, and even her husband said that was the most incredible healing moment for her, because her mother always made her, like, she never felt like, it was never a mother-daughter relationship. And as he explained to me, he said she went through the Holocaust. So she had massive, and I was like, wow, like, she didn't show me that. She just referenced she'd been through trauma. And, that simple message of the mum coming through and putting her hand up to say, I didn't do a great job, I am sorry, I love my daughter, was life-changing for her. And that's, again, a really simple one, and maybe not as much impact to everyone else in the room, but they came up and they were like, that's just changed the dynamic of so many things for her.
Hasn't it? It was just that. And it's quite funny because the client you're talking about, that couple that you're talking about right now, they were supposed to be in Tassie. Jen, they would have visited you down in they were supposed to do a really big hike down in Tasmania, and it got cancelled because of the severe weather warning that was put through on the weekend. So they came along as a last minute. Now, the funniest thing was, because remember that lady had her father come through first, and she was Daddy's little girl, and she was so chuffed to hear from Dad. And you said, look, wherever you talked about a special place where they used to go on weekends, and they go, and you said to her, this was quite nice. He goes, you might feel your dad's present. It's because he's actually there. He's hanging out with you in those special moments. He still values it and everything like that. And she made her day. When you spoke to the mum, I remember when she requested to speak to her mum, and that was it. And basically, I remember the way you pictured it, Tanya, was like, she's in the background, she's standing back, she's not really coming forward too much. She was shy, almost a sheepish almost way. And what made me laugh, and all I said to her after, she goes, geez, you wouldn't have got that in Tassie, would you? Where her mother said, sorry for some shit parenting. Really, that's what it is in a nutshell. And I know her because she's got a Hungarian background. And I said, I know that really didn't mean much to you, because us Hungarians, we don't really hold a grudge, do we? And she just pissed herself laughing. So what? And her husband was right what he said to you, Tonya. That was such a healing moment. I had a friend of mine, Gus, come along, Texas Gus, right? Who I love, and he was skeptical. He's a data analyst. His partner was Cynthia, and she really wanted to connect. Yeah, she was. And Gus, I asked Gus the other day. Now, this guy who's got a data analyst, so you can work out the rest, right? If it's got facts, if it's got science, he believes. Anything other than that, forget about it. So he actually said, he goes, wow, what a healing experience to actually be able to connect with somebody like that. He goes, I've never seen anything like that in my life, where it was so healing. And that was his 2 cents, on it too.
Wow. Andrew loved him. He hasn't stopped talking about Texas Gus.
Texas Gus is cool. He's one of our favorite people. So next time he comes up, we'll go out for dinner, all of us. It'll be quite fun. Now, I wanted to go back to Jen. You brought up a really good point. She goes, spiritually, he had already parted. And what I want to ask there, when somebody's in or close to death, Tonya, do they float in and out of their body? Like, let's say if they're a coma, or let's say, I don't know, they've had a stroke or anything. Can you come in and out, I suppose, is the question.
Yeah, look, I believe so. You like, because you got to think about we're in that space that's sort of not fully here and not fully there. So we're in that in
Yeah.
between space. And yes, I believe we do, because when you look at it, like even when you pass, the soul still, the soul survives, and that's basically, as a medium, that's your role, is to prove that the soul survives death. And
Yep.
I feel, and I can, again, like I said, I can only go on my experience, but I've had them connect and give me evidence, like to have the gentleman that was in a coma give his name, all of his information. That was, and to start with, I was just bringing through a spirit. I had no concept of where he fitted, and
Yeah.
to be that exact shows that he was coming through for a reason. And yes, he hadn't passed, and that's not a common thing. Most of the time they are passed, but
Yep.
it just shows you that can happen. And I think that's something that, as humans, we need to keep our minds open to, the things that can happen that sometimes we don't fully think about prior to them happening.
Yeah, 100%. You put up this one from Jen, which is interesting.
Yeah, so Jen's put here, a few years ago you were in Tassie and a mail came through. Not a lot of info, and it was my friend I had with me. He was the nephew of her brother's partner, who she never met and didn't know much about. My friend had mentioned to me a week or so before. The only reason I picked up on it, when they want to get a message to the walking world, they will. Yes. So that's an example of just how people do. They'll get a message anyway.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and this is an issue. Susie's got a lot of respect here. Susie Williams, she just goes, "Wow, what a challenge, Tanya." Susie gets it doing it herself. It's also,
Yes.
it is so tricky sometimes with what comes through. It is important not to edit out information. I can tell
Yeah.
when people are filtering. Yeah, and that's a skill set, isn't it? I mean, like for yourself,
That's
you're just
right.
like,
You've got to
okay,
deliver.
here you go. Yeah,
Yeah. And that's part of a medium's journey, is because the ability to totally surrender without putting your spin on it is something that takes a lot of practice. And as humans, we tend to want to analyze things or go, "Oh, they're showing me this, it must be that." No,
yep,
just, "They're showing me this." And the person
yep,
goes, "Yes." And,
yeah.
so they're all the learning things that I suppose you learn as you go along, and the more experience you get in mediumship, the more you surrender to
Mhm.
honoring exactly what they bring through, the clearer the evidence is. So one of the keys that I have found with mediumship is that you really have to surrender to that spirit, because it's a little bit like you and I, Tony, having a conversation. If I'm going to relay information from you and I get it a bit, I don't fully get it how you've given it to me, but I'm delivering it from you. You can
I hear
imagine that,
Andrew right now.
you could imagine the spirit person going, "Well, stuff it. I'm not giving them, I'm not going to give them a lot of stuff because I can't trust this person to relay the
Yeah.
information correctly."
Yeah, that's interesting. Avichka, good to have you on board. Really good to see you. And I can see how
Yeah.
Avichka resonates with this as well. I think it's our Eastern European upbringing where she goes, wow, talking about the lady that had her mum who said sorry. Now, this is what she goes, wow, that would have been such a powerful moment for her to help her
Mm.
heal mothers. Now, do you know what, Avichka? Avichka brings up a really interesting point, and this is really interesting, Tonya, too, is that as a spirit, now this is an interesting point. What this is saying to me is, as a spirit, that we're still learning, as a soul aspect, we're still learning, that we still haven't got it right. And although we come into a human body, even in spirit world, we go, I stuffed up. Now, which is quite interesting, opposed to, because Avichka, what we're saying here is, the spirit can come in and go, it's the lesson they needed to learn. That's why I was a
Mm.
bad mother to them. That's why I did this from. But what we're hearing here is the flip side. And you said they don't apologize that often, Tonya, right?
They don't. No, they don't all come through. Some
Yeah.
just come through to say, "Look, I was pretty shit at that," and they'll
That's
acknowledge it,
interesting.
but they don't always come through and go, "I'm really sorry about that." So
Yep.
but they're a bit like people. They're a bit like, we're all different. So you're not going
Yep.
to get people that take ownership or want to take ownership.
Yep. Brings up a really interesting point, though, doesn't it?
It does.
That we put our faith in this all-knowing being, of whatever it may be, if we want to go down that path. But to know even from a spiritual aspect that we're still imperfect and we're learning all the time, which is cool, which to me just goes one above being a human being. Now, in the spirit world, you can stuff up as well, which I love that idea that we're trying our best. And I take it back to a moment in time where I think everybody's has got the intention of being good and loving and caring. I think that's what we get born with. And I think when we're being nasty to others, that there's a deep seed of regret or resentment there. Somehow it's going to come up, like I feel bad for making that person feel bad or whatever. And it still carries on to the spirit world. And I remember with my friend Emil, who had a stroke, and then he talked about things that he regretted in the past, was things that if you would have spoke ill of somebody or something, I think is that inhibition process really switched off for him, and it just could be his true self. So I think what it really says here is I think Dalai Lama and Buddha and all got it is right. It's like, try to love each other all the time so you have no regret. So even in spirit world, you can say, I did the best I could. There's nothing more I could do here, if anything. So it's just interesting. It's something that's popped up for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because they're all different. Hey, Shelby. Tony hasn't acknowledged me yet. Shelby, we've had so many jump on, including you.
Shelves, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. Yes, Karen's Dinner 2.0 coming up soon. What's Kathy got here?
We missed it this time, didn't we? We didn't get there, but we will get there.
It was.
Poor Andrew hasn't been yet. I can't wait.
Look, both you and I know we were booked out 24/7 all that week last week. You were booked out as well. It's just we didn't stop until Monday evening about 8:30. That was when we stopped. But let's have a look. Kathy's got here. Kathy goes, I had a dream about my 38-year-old nephew. He wore his hair short in life, but he came through with longish hair. This is an interesting one. I asked him why he was wearing it long, and he laughingly said, I just want to try something different. Many past relatives visit me in dreams, even my mother-in-law, who didn't like me much. Unpack that time. Tell me about. I like the first bit of that, a changing in appearance. What's with that?
Look, it can just be something fun and different, and they always spirit will find a way to come through, and often dreams are the easiest way for them to be able to get messages through, because that's a time that we're not busy in our thinking mode. So having a dream of a relative can be quite a powerful connection. And the fact that he's changed his hair, and he just said, I just wanted to try something different, that can also be sharing a message to you to try something different. So I often look into when they're sharing messages, they might not say, oh, I'm doing something different and so should you. But if you take away the message there, it's like, I've done the same thing over and over. Oh, I'm trying something different. That's possibly a clue, Kathy, to something that you need to change, for yourself. And I say, they'll always give us information for a reason. Sometimes if you get a cryptic dream message, then I say, sometimes you'll get spirit come through and the message is so weird or, really different. Then you have to unpack it. That's when you go to somebody like Tony Ann or somebody and go, hey, how does this make sense? But I would take that as I'll try something different. But it's also showing you, Kathy, that he's happy and, he's free, and that's a great message within itself. So, but your mother-in-law who didn't like you much, well, that's again showing that she's got over it now in the spirit world because she's coming to visit you. So that to me says that's a little bit of okay, I've gotten over that, not liking you so much.
Yeah, exactly. And look, Ivichka brings up another great one, and it's going to refer something back to what happened on Friday night at up here. Ivichka goes, that has been a huge lesson to trust the messages, no matter how crazy they might seem to you. And some of your messages that you do get. You had a lot of fun with one of my dear friends, Belinda, up at the clinic. She was one of the last readings that you did for the night, the last connections that you did. Belinda was up the back, and she had her dear friend, like a sister to her, Anita, come through, and they were like twins. Absolutely. They're like when they were here and they were there for each other. And she was a little bit older there. It was funny how you picked it out. You go, I've got a mum coming through. It's a mum, it's somebody older. And then everybody's at her, and then you started describing, go, oh, hold on a second. But she goes, oh, she laughed. She goes, they'd always make a comparison between you and I, thinking that we were sisters, or if I was younger than you, and realistically, she was a little bit older. And you had this thing, and it was so beautiful. Belinda's going, oh my God, okay, so it's Anita there. And you did this thing that they're famous for, is chinking glasses together whenever they go out and get on the drinks, right? Yeah. And that's what they did. They were two classy, sophisticated rednecks, is what they used to call themselves. And then, here you go, darling, let's have another one. And they'd be really bogan about it too. But there was an element of class there, and she just laughed her head off. The one that I love, and you had good fun, and this is going back to Avitska's comment, like, no matter how crazy the message is, you actually said, you go, oh, actually, do you remember this one?
Share it. Probably not.
and she goes, and Tonya goes, I'm just the messenger here. You got it. And she goes, but she's got a bone to pick with you. And it was really good. She goes, what have you done to your hair? And you said, I go, I'm only being the messenger. This is what she's sending to, and Belinda pissed herself. Like, she goes, I just got it blonde. It was like, because she's got dark hair. And Anita's going, I don't like it, like, change it. And you're telling her all this. And it was a lot of fun. And it was you just telling us what Spirit was saying and coming straight through. And that was a lot of fun. That was a really fun moment for Belinda in that sense. Yeah. It was, you know, it's not always serious, is what we're saying, I suppose.
That's right.
When you do this, there's a lot of good fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if they had a sense of humor in life, they certainly like to bring that forward in death. You know, like it's a really powerful way that they will share. And because I'm like the eternal child, and I love funny random things, and sense of humor is probably up there for me. I always, you know, often get any of them that come through a sense of humor. I'm like, yep, dry sense of humor, the dad jokes, all those, you know, the different sense of humor I get really easily, and I love it, and I really connect in, and certainly love to deliver those, because, you know, life's too serious to not laugh, isn't it?
Exactly. You got to laugh. Look, Jen's got a really good one here about her dad being in ICU. Can you see that one there? That's a really cool one.
We've got heaps of people commenting today. I'm like, I can't keep up with everybody.
That's all right.
Let me see.
It's like all the voices in my head. So many of them.
I know. It's like.
Which one do you listen
to? So Jen's put here, many years ago, my dad was in ICU. He had an op and was doing so well that they put him on the ward. He crashed. And when I went to see him in ICU, he told me that he was above his body and saw the doctors and nurses working on him. He said they called his death, and it was at that point he decided he wasn't ready to leave and went back to his body. I feel so blessed, grateful, and privileged that he told me, and then he decided that he wasn't ready to go. That's a really cool message, Jen. I love that.
Explain that, Reeves. Let's go. Earn the money. Just go. Boom.
You know,
start
you'll
talking.
You'll often hear people will say, like, whether they have a near-death experience, or, you know, even Shelby shared a great story there. You know, and it's almost like this, we all have the ability, and you often hear it like astro travel, which is actually, you know, lifting up from your body and being able to look back down. If you Google that, you'll see many people have that experience. But to this story that Jen is sharing, we hear over and over and over about people that are nearly ready to go, and then all of a sudden, you know, that and honestly, they realize that it isn't their time. That's sort of more so what I get shown.
Do you have a choice then?
I don't think so. I believe it's very much like they would have been up there going, it's not your time, get back down there.
Oh, okay,
you know, because that's like... kind of, they know. And, you know, like, you'll get...
It's like being a footy player. It's like being a football player and trying to sub yourself off, and the coach is going, get back on there. I haven't subbed you off yet, buddy. You're back on.
That's right.
Yeah. Jen, thanks for opening up and sharing this one. I've got to say, my friend Alan went through exactly the same thing. He said he saw the ambulance guys come in. He was hovering above, and his thoughts were this when he spoke about it. He goes, what are they all fussing about? They go, you know, they're trying to keep bringing back to life this, that, the other. And then he popped back into his body. I think it was maybe at hospital or something like that, where he was basically told to turn around and say, hey, your time. Jen, that's a really cool one. That's quite... Would you be able to speak to spirit then in that state when they're out of body? Would that be where your connections might be coming from?
Look, it really depends. That those
I'm
experiences
thinking
are
about the ones in
they're
coma
pretty
and that.
rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty rare, in all honesty. Like, most of the time who I communicate with have definitely passed over. Like, they're not here.
Yeah.
So that would be a rarity. But you
That's
often
why
hear
we
the
communicate
story.
so well, Tonya. So I feel like I'm never here.
And you will hear that story over and over. So, when you hear something that many times, different people have had the same experience. And we've got to go, well, hang on a minute here. They're all relaying that, I could see my body, I could see myself being operated. Even people that have had operations will sometimes come back and say, I was above and I could see what was going on. And it wasn't they were going to die. They were just, conscious of that ability to be able to see what was happening to them. And I think it's just fascinating, like the whole thing. But
It is.
again,
There's
it's
so much
different. But I
more.
do believe we come in with an exit date. I really do. I believe that there's, when our time is up, it's up. I don't think there's anything we can do to change that. And many times I'll share that information with people that when their loved one comes through, it's like it was their time, and that's what they show me. It was my
And
time.
I want to get onto Anita's one, but Mum was really funny when she was passing away. She was over it in the last 2-3 months. She was in pain. She had leukemia and whatnot. She was over it, and she was, as we all know, she was quite spiritually inclined. And I go, Mum, how you go? She goes, I'm having arguments with people upstairs. And I go, what do you mean, Mum? She goes, in the spirit world. She goes, I want to go. They don't want to take me. She goes, they're just being really stubborn about it right now.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah. So let's have a look at Anita's one here. It's quite interesting.
So Anita's got, it's her Nana's birthday today, and she passed 30 years ago. And whilst I was outside this morning grounding, I had a Kookaburra visitor, which I believe was my Nan. I grabbed some mints, hand-fed her, and sang a happy birthday. Tears streaming down my face, I thanked her for her visit. See, that's beautiful, and that is 100% a sign that spirit is around. And the more belief we have in something, the more opportunities are available to us to be able to acknowledge. And I honestly, I love that share, Anita. I've often shown that with spirit. They'll come through as visitors with animals, and I think it's fantastic and so powerful to know that, especially on her birthday. That makes total sense to me. I love it.
It does. It really does. Linda, thanks for jumping on board. She goes, hi, guys. Tonya, I met you at the My Soul Expo at Wyong. It was a lovely intimate space. I enjoyed the day. Good to have you on board.
Yeah, awesome.
But you know what I like about Anita's one here? This is really cool because your Nan passed 30 years ago. And it's not like you've been looking around for a sign from your Nan every day for the last 30 years. For some reason, a Kookaburra rocks up, you get this gut feeling, it feels like it's your Nan. Now, that is really cool. We've talked about intuition before and a sign and everything like that. You were just there at the right place, right time, where you had a moment to think, geez, that feels like Nan's energy. We'll go with something like that. You grabbed some mints and sang her a song, and it just felt right. And that's what I like about that, where you talk about, Tonya, where you go, spirit will come to you. You just got to be, you said it really well on Friday night, where you go, there's so much noise on the planet at the moment, and you've got to silence yourself and look for the signs. And when they do, then you accept them. And I think this is what Anita's just demonstrated beautifully of how to do that. And tears streaming. I'm so happy for you, Anita. That's super cool. You got cool, but that's super cool.
That is.
I love it.
That absolutely is. And that's a reminder. And I think was it Anita that was saying, the top 3 ways to be able to connect to spirit, or asking about, what are the obvious ways. And being present's number 1. Being present and being in the silence, because we really need to practice getting back to being able to receive. And you can't receive when the mind's full of thoughts, when the mind's are just overwhelmed. And I'm a little bit aware of that prior to a show. Like, if I do a big group of people, you really want to be able to get them in that moment. So energetically, you have to shift things so they're not thinking about, I need to go and get that, I need to book that in.
That's why you made me go get champagne for everybody, didn't you?
That's right, exactly. You want them in that. You want them in that. That next thing of, like, let's be open to something different. And and I think the more that we're present, that's our number 1 thing, the more that information will come to us. And we have to start getting out of our way to go, that's not a coincidence. because if we can just say to ourselves, okay, I'm going to delete that rhetoric that I normally would say that was a coincidence. Dad's favorite songs come on 3 times, or that's a coincidence. We do it as humans. We write things off. So when we don't pick up the signs, when we become stuck on we as humans, we have expectations. So we think that spirit should come in a certain form or with a certain message. And it's a little bit like when somebody comes to a reading and goes, I told Dad what he needed to do to let me know he's there. And it's like, Dad doesn't follow rules. Dad, that's your interpretation of what your expectation is.
Tell you,
I want
Dad had
I
a
want
big
Dad
spirit.
to. I had a girl not that long ago, and she was like,
Dad's
there was a specific sign.
Yeah.
She just wanted this specific sign. I said, he's showing me a tune, he's showing me a chorus, and it was over and over and over. And there's 5 words in the song. Everything was spot on. But she was like, oh, but do you know what it is? I'm like, no, I'm just giving you what he's giving me, because it's not a show that you can just switch on and go, oh, you want to hear what song that was and what's in regard to. You can't do,
and that's right. You can't push for the result. And that's what Anita's demonstrated right here, of just being open to the possibility and not knowing when that's going to come in a 30-year period, which is really nice. Chris, how are you? Good to have you on board, Chris. Gilly's on board as well. Great to have you guys on. Shelby also says that when she was in ICU last year, she felt myself when I was passing in and out. I had a very spiritual moment. I feel like there was a choice I had to make. In that moment, I forgot my life and decided to keep on living. I didn't realize I had survival instinct until it was in that moment. Isn't that powerful? Shelby, you are a powerful human being. You are such a beautiful soul, and you've got a lot of good fight in you. You've got a lot to give. And that just confirms that's who you are. There's a lot of good, and you'll be around. You've got a long time to go, Shelbs. Seriously, Shelbs, you and I should go halves in a retirement home. I'll go there first, but you'll be, when I'm out, you can move straight in. You know what I'm saying? That's how long you're going to live for, Shelby. That's where you're at. Okay. And Shelbs, if you've got the deposit, we can go ahead with the payment today. That'll be great. I'm a little bit short at the moment for cash, but Shelbs, I'll fix you up. I'll pay you back somehow. Don't know how yet. No.
But I love Sam's share here too. Spirit are amazing. Recently learned they can even tell you off. My granny wasn't happy with a choice of mine and told me so. I love that. Yep. Yeah, they keep us accountable. They really do. I get that too, Sam. Don't worry. I get kick
Sam,
up the
good to have you on board too.
Yeah,
you do. And it's sort of same one, Sam, where Belinda was told that her friend who passed away didn't like the color of her hair. The other thing that I like that you said, Tonya, too, in that one there, and this goes in with what Sam's saying as well, just being really honest, was that Belinda was sitting on the fence about a major decision, and she goes, you need to jump off that fence and make that decision sooner rather than later. And she was coming through as a friend, seeing it from a different way. So a nice spirit would have been like, oh, you're making the right choices, we'll help you, we'll support you, all that crap. It'll be like, no, get off the fence and make a decision. All right? Yeah. And that was it. And you didn't direct which way the decision. You just, this is what she said, I'm passing it through, and that's where it goes. Yeah.
And I often find that, because we sometimes look at spirit to give us the exact answer, but we've also got to remember we've come into this lifetime to learn lessons. And you don't learn a lesson if somebody says, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z. You learn a lesson by going along and living through the uncertainty and, being able to navigate your way into, the right path. That learning is the ultimate in life. And people forget that. We think it's a destination. It's definitely not.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just straight. I heard half of what you have to say, Tom. And it was good. I feel like I'm Andrew now. Yes, love, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
No, because Lisa, I love this one. Lisa actually throws in a really interesting question. Do you believe that souls stay with their bodies for a certain time or sometimes until a particular person comes to them? I believe my dad stayed in his body because he knew I would come. He waited for 3 days and I had a very clear conversation. Lisa, I like this one, and great question to ask Tonya. Thanks for that question, Lisa.
Absolutely. Look, I believe it can vary. I think it depends on the soul. But the fact that he would have known that you would have been coming to visit, 100% he would be there. 100%. Absolutely. So I don't believe they all stay with their body. I think it depends on, the cause of death. It can depend on if things have been resolved around their death, and they can certainly leave the body and then come back when they know you're going to be there as well. So,
But Tonya, would you want to see how many people went to your funeral? Like I would.
Oh yeah, they love that. I often get a response where people will say, yeah. And how many people? I've had many come through and go, oh, I was really. I've had them come through and go, holy shit, there were so many people at my funeral. I can't believe it. Like,
you actually said that Friday night with somebody. You actually did say that. They were surprised with how many people turned up at the funeral.
Yes.
So, Lisa, I hope that answers your question, Lisa, that it was intentional. Is what you're saying, Tonya?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we can set that intention with spirit. So, again, if we're feeling stuck, and I'll often share this when I do a show, if you feel like I'm, not getting any messages from Dad, I'm trying really hard and I'm just not finding that I'm getting it, then we set the intention. So the intention is to be, Dad, I need a clear sign, okay? Then our job is to be present and be aware of that sign, because that's half the time they'll give us signs, but we just, we're too busy and we're not being in the moment to be able to receive the messages. And that really is the only block I find with most people, is that we're not in the headspace to receive the info.
Yep. Interesting.
So, yeah,
it's
that's
people are now starting to go down that path of when your time is right. A bitch goes, having a near-death experience definitely changed my perspective on life. My female ancestors pushed me back to my body and earth, which she's totally grateful for. She goes, I argued I was done. Lucky my ancestors are a bunch of strong women not to be messed with.
I love that.
Were they strong or just angry? There's a difference. But they pulled you in line, Avichka, is what they had to do. I actually like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that too. And Beth's sharing here too, another one. Obviously Beth connects to spirit as well, but I love it when spirit tells us things we have no idea what we're talking about, but the client does, and that they're often the most pivotal things, that are things that do not make sense to us, but they make sense to that client. Incredible.
Look, Beth is right. I look at you, Tonya, and when you start relaying information, I look at you and I know you've got no idea where this shit's coming from, and you've got no idea how this is going to land. And it cracks me up, because it's almost like, I'm just going to go with this. It's like you're the little kid and you go, Tonya, say this. You go, oh, fuck, all right. They want me to tell you about having red hair, blue eyes, and the one that cracked me up was like, they had this old wallpaper, and you're like, okay, they're showing me this old wallpaper. I don't know why. And so you go, oh my God. And you go, and then there's a clothesline. I don't know why they're showing me this clothesline, but I've got to talk about this clothesline out the back. And there's all that. You're like the little kid, really being forced what to say. You don't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, I sound like an idiot. I've got to share this shit. It better land with somebody.
Yes. And wasn't it? And it was interesting. That was for your friend. And what nailed it for her was the bloody wallpaper. She goes, oh, I remember that wallpaper. The rest of it she didn't remember. So isn't it funny? That was what was needed to link that spirit.
Oh, lovely. Narelle's on board. Narelle, how are you? She's a dear friend. I'm so glad she's jumped on. Good to see you, Narelle. Go for it. She goes,
this is a great share. I love this.
Yeah,
Narelle.
this is really good
one. I've been doing my family tree and found Aboriginal ancestry. I feel the spirit world have been guiding me, like cellular memory. My grandmother on the other side's trying to come through, but I'm unsure what she wants to say. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, Narelle, you're open to the messages.
Narelle's very spiritual. She's a great healer herself. She's doing massage, very spiritually connected. So this one's an interesting one. It feels like there might be a little bit of a blockage for her, or what would you say on that one?
Well, sometimes it can just be expectation, Narelle. So sometimes we need to sit with, okay, your grandmother on the other side is trying to come through. We need to create a dialogue. So it's a little bit like, if you have somebody that you connect with, we have that dialogue where, hi, I acknowledge them. So I find with spirit acknowledging, hi, grandmother, you know, and to amplify that, you can get something of hers or some kind of memory or something that you feel, you know, when you look at is a connection to her. So that's another great one, whether it's a photo or just something that's linked to a memory. And you can kind of set that near you and say, okay, I'm setting that intention. I'm aware of you being here. You know, please show me the signs, or what is the message that you're wanting to bring in. Now, sometimes that message will come from somebody else. So you'll set that intention. A day later, a friend comes to you and says, oh, I heard about this great opportunity and there's this, and this happening. How good does that sound? And then all of a sudden you get goosebumps, or you get that bit of a, hang on a minute, I needed to hear that message. And that will be your grandmother guiding you to go, this is what you need to be doing. And that's just one example. There's so many of them. But if we stop getting out of our trying to overanalyze and trying to have expectations on what we want to hear, and we just be open to everything being a message. So whether it's a bird flying in, sitting there, and you can look up the spiritual meaning of that bird, whether it's somebody coming and having a conversation with you, whether it's you know, you're scrolling and then all of a sudden an ad comes up, like, and you know, you're like, oh, gee, I needed to see that. There's your message. You know, there's so many ways that spirit will give us messages, but we just need to look at, if we look at everything being a message, we'll find the answers easily.
I got a message the other day on Instagram that I could lose 6 kilos in 3 weeks if I went onto this new shake.
Oh, okay.
I'm deciding not to go there, but Narelle, I think it's exactly what Tanya's saying here. Is the example that Anita gave with the kookaburra coming in and wanting to connect with her grandmother. But, you know, in that 30-year time, it was just there. The other thing is, for Narelle, do you think it will be a timing thing? When the message needs to come through from her grandma, that's when it will come through. And it's not going to come through sooner or later. It's just at the right time. Is that also a thing to be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, remember, time is nothing in the spirit world. So we as humans think everything has to be yesterday, but, you know, that they don't run on that time. So at the right time, you'll be given the answers. And the more we surrender to that, and I feel like this year's been massive for that, surrendering to the messages and, you know, surrendering to the process of life and not being attached to micromanaging where you need to be at for every moment. And you know, because we do as humans tend to micromanage or want to know the answers, you know.
Yeah.
And I love Sean's here. Some come to learn, yet a few come to teach and touch.
It's a bit creepy, Sean. What do they want to touch me for?
I think touch the lives of others is what he was meaning there.
Got it. Sorry, Sean, I stand corrected. Once again, I love you. You come up with some really cool, profound things. And lucky I've got Tonya here to put me back on the straight and narrow. But yeah. Do you think, Sean, we're all that? I like what Sean actually, some of us here to learn and some of us come to teach. And then sometimes there's a combination of the two, yeah? We can have, I'm here to teach, but I'm also here to learn.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And we're not all designed to do both, you know, and that's what I think sometimes it's finding your niche. And that's what I do. Like I've done teaching and I've had people, you know, but people will come to me lately. I've had a lot wanting mentoring in mediumship and, you know, that those that are in this industry. So I'm really guided by that. So, you know, and I think that's what we need to look at. You know, if you keep getting people coming to you and either wanting answers for something or help with something, that can often be a sign of there's a direction that you need to be, that spirit are guiding you to say, hey, step into this.
Yep, exactly. It's about being that sort of, Gay, I like the share that you had with, I just want to acknowledge that with what was it, your dad in hospital, not expecting the last night. So that's really a nice message there. We won't get time to actually unpack it all. But it is a good one. Peter, 5 minutes. Geez, dude, like seriously, you used to just give us a 1 minute warning or 2 minute. Like, what's with the 5 minutes already? I mean, like, geez, somebody's been a fun sponge today, overstepping the authority, Pete. You know, geez, you used to be cool, dude. You know, now like 5 minute warning. What do I do with 5 minutes? Ton, what do you want to do with 5 minutes? We've got a whole 5 minutes. We can do another show.
I like Anita's thing here. Thanks so much for sparking light, faith, and guidance every Thursday. Thank you. We love great
Thank you.
feedback. Thanks, Anita.
Yeah, absolutely. It keeps all of us going, I suppose. All of us actually add to that spark, and it's, as a community, we do really well. And then, and Shelby, I like to say thanks to Shelby. She'll cry at my funeral. So you coming to my funeral? That's so cool, Shelby. Thanks, man. I'll send you an invite. You'll definitely get one.
I love Susan's here. My dad told me to tell my brother to start the outboard motor regularly or it would seize. I love that.
Oh,
they're the things they do. Like, literally, like, they want to help and be of service. Like, hey, you need to be doing this, this, and this. And I've actually had lately one that's a little bit more common is Spirit coming through and just saying for people to look after their health a bit better. And it's, that's a random one that does come up. But I've found that a lot lately, Spirit saying, hey, you're not addressing something. So it's like they almost, they don't want those of us that are living to go through the same experience that they had, whether it was illness or ill health. And especially if it's a genetic thing, it's like they really want us to be onto it.
Okay, that's really cool. I like that. So listening out for those ones. Kathy resonates with Lisa before. She goes, my dad did that too, Lisa. He actually died and came back so I could see him before he passed officially. I love those little connections, Kathy. Thanks for that share. That's really nice.
I love Peter. He's giving you time to get organised, Tony.
Oh, well,
Peter, Tony and organised do not go in the same sentence.
Dude, like, seriously.
I love it.
I haven't even tried to be organised, Peter. That's how bad my life is.
We're 3-minute warning now. No, I'm joking. I can't believe, time flies when you're having fun. So I'm in the middle of nowhere, as you can see, and Andrew's gone out and taken the dogs for a run, so I've kept him busy.
That's good. That's always good.
Yeah, heading back home tomorrow, I believe. So so we've had fun on the road, which has been really cool, and being able to connect with everyone's been a lot of fun right now.
It has.
What have you got? So Tony, we didn't talk about the charger. 2 minutes. Charge
is easy. It's great. It's race around Tassie, and that's me in that photo, and that's pretty much it. But more importantly,
are you going back there next year? Don't know.
We don't know if the event will be on next year. So they're looking at changing it, whether it's racing, but things like that. But we'll see. But a good thing that did happen. We had our second event in the clinic. Peter, you'll be interested in this. I conducted my first community-based human repair shop mental health workshop. So it was all about mental health. We had a great group of people in there. And really we had a lot of good impact for people on how they can actually identify when their mental health is going down and what they can do to acknowledge it, and then actually have some steps on how to move through a down and out period, and some things that were sustainable, and it was a nice process. So look, Tonya, I'm very harsh when it comes to myself, whether I'm doing stand-up comedy, whether I'm doing presenting or running a course or anything. And I've been doing it for a very, very long time. My standards of myself are quite high in that. And I've got to say, Orla got to see me actually facilitate a workshop for the first time ever, which was great. She was absolutely blown away. However, I've got to say, with all the feedback just confirmed, my feeling being absolutely chuffed after a workshop and going, this actually resonated with everybody. This was such a beautiful space to be in. Everybody loved it. Still getting feedback like even today.
That's so fantastic.
It's nice when a community gets something to inspire them for their mental health. It was really nice. And I tell them it's not therapy. We're not here to deal with your problem. We're not here to, I'm not here to deal with your daddy issues, your mummy issues, whatever it may be. I'm going to respect that and hold the space that it deserves without a doubt and respect it. But it was more about them and moving through. So that was nice. That was just my little week. But Peter,
so will you do that regularly, Tony? Because I feel like that would be something that would be so popular.
Look, I plan to do a workshop every 4 to 6 weeks. And whether it's like somebody yourself, somebody like me, actually, I just spoke to an elite athlete who's just retired, and we're looking at doing a workshop for elite kids athletes like 12 to
Wow.
15-year-olds about
Yeah,
how to deal with performance anxiety.
wow.
And they'll actually do a Q&A on somebody who's been there, been through the highs, the lows and everything, and do some tips around that. Then I've got a guy who specializes in, a doctor who specializes in eating disorders. So we're looking at maybe doing something like how to pick up early signs and symptoms if your child might be going through an eating disorder, and how to actually combat that. So little things like that, we're thinking really community-based. As you know, maximum 20 people in our clinic, and that's all we want, but we want small, intimate people
Yeah,
that really have an issue in their life where they can actually get some good results.
yeah.
That's what it's all about. I'm not into hiring out a hall and having 350 people there and selling tickets for the sake of selling tickets. I really want impact from this in our community, from our clinic, and that's, we're driving really on quality and
That's
not so
awesome.
much quantity. Yeah, so that's why we had you in, and geez, the healing from that was amazing. When is the next one in Sydney for you? When are
I
you
know
up?
we're going to set a date, 2023.
Yeah, let's do that,
Uh,
because a lot of people I did email and I said, would you be interested to know when Tonya comes back? Every one of those people emailed me back and said, please let me know when Tonya's back in. And there was a lot of people that couldn't make it. So that's really cool.
That is, no, it was awesome. And thank you for being the host with the mostest, Tony. You were incredible. Could not have asked for anyone better to have,
I agree.
held space. It was awesome. I
I think I
absolutely
was
loved
good.
it.
Put on coffee, champagne, chips, chocolate. Apparently I was called a feeder. I am. Avichka, where's Avichka? Avichka, you'll understand this. If you host a party, everybody's got to eat. And you keep on giving them food. Even when they don't want food, Avichka, how correct's this? They'll still take the food out of your hand. They go, no, I've had enough, but I'll take another biscuit or another cake. Because you know they want it. You know, all right? No is not no in a European household. No is like, keep on pushing it on me. I'll eat it eventually. And that, Tonya, you saw that firsthand. All right.
Yes.
This is what we do.
It was brilliant.
All right.
All right,
All right,
Pete's
let's get
giving
out of
us
here.
a warning.
Yep.
Okay, everyone, take care. We'll see you same
Pete,
time, same
can we have
place.
can we have a 10-minute heads up next time? I've just realized how valuable your 5-minute heads up was.
I love it. Thanks, Pete. Love ya.
All right. See you
Okay,
later.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.